Okay, we are recording. How you doing today?
What's happening, mate? You good? How's
Yeah,
things?
it's all right. The sun's been shining this week, which makes a big difference. Whereabouts are you today?
I'm just at home. I live like in North London in the Angel.
Oh, right, nice. Oh, so I'm not too far.
Yeah. No, the weather has been nice, ain't it? I'm actually just coming out the other side of having I've finally got COVID.
Oh,
So
really?
I've literally the sun come out just as I weren't allowed to leave my gaff. So I've been watching it through the window from bed. Do you know what I mean? Um, and now it's fucked off as I've come out. so I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling sweet now. Touch wood.
Did
But
you kind of sort of have a mild case, or was you on your back?
um, you know what? I was for the first day. I thought, oh fucking hell, this is gonna be it. Like I couldn't move. Do you know what I mean? Like getting out of bed to go and use the loo was even a struggle. But literally the day after that, I've been touch wood. I've not been too bad. The one thing is the taste thing. It's
Mm.
been a fucking nightmare. So 5 days in, my taste and my smell went, and I'm a greedy bastard. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy my food and that, and I'm not being able to enjoy like even have a cup of tea or a beer
Yeah.
or something. It's been a nightmare. But touch wood, it seems to be coming back gradually. I've been chewing ginger and drinking lemon juice and smelling garlic and everything that I've googled online. But apart from like occasionally, I feel like I got a bit of jet lag and I need to go and have a kip.
Yeah.
Uh, that sort of creeps up on me randomly. I get a bit exhausted if I go out and do a bit of like I went to the gym for the first time yesterday, and when I come back, I just kind of that was it. I was fucked for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
But apart from that, touch wood, I weren't too bad because I was a bit nervous because I've got quite bad asthma and stuff. So I thought, oh shit, here we go. But touch wood didn't seem to. I sort of got away with it. I think not too bad.
So how did you find like lockdown as as a human and as an artist? Like, how did you sort of find that time, that 18 months, which thankfully we seem to be,
Yeah,
out of now?
I like. I, to be honest, I fucking hated it. Like I could not get on with it whatsoever.
Mm.
Um, it kind of the lockdowns kicked the shit out of me mentally. I'm not gonna lie. Like I just it drove me insane. I sort of creatively as well. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was mad because I literally I became so I've been doing music for 10 years, and I only just became like I just signed a deal in lockdown, like as it started. So I became like a professional musician as the world basically went home. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'd been sort of gigging non-stop for like 10 years and playing anywhere that would have me and stuff like that. And then literally as I became like an actual like I started doing it full time. I was just told to go and sit indoors all day. And I remember my manager saying to me, he was like, "This is fucking brilliant. Like you're gonna just you'll come out of this with like 3 albums worth of material or something." But I could not for the life of me at that first, I'd say the first 6 months, I couldn't even touch a guitar or a piano. I don't know what it was. It was just like I all of a sudden had all the time in the world, and my brain just wouldn't let me do it. It was
Mm.
mad. I'd always been, I'd always had a job, finished at 6 or 7, gone home, and then done this thing as an hobby. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, yeah, like I was told to do it full time, but also that I weren't really. No one was doing anything. Like that was right when it was proper
Mm.
intense, and you were supposed to leave the gaff for like an hour a day to have a little walk or something, and spend the rest of the time indoors. But yeah, I and then on a sort of personal level, like my mental health just went through the fucking floor. I
Mm.
I, I was I just kind of felt like I was floating. Do you know what I mean? Like I was kind of just about keeping my head above the water. I weren't like thriving. I was just getting through things day to day. Just doing anything to kind of keep my brain ticking over and keep my mind occupied and not letting it kind of start winding myself up too much. You know what I mean? But I know so many people, so many friends of mine that are like, oh, you know, they were almost sad to see the back of it. They'd really kind of,
Really?
yeah, like I know a few people that had like thrived in it, especially because as well, like I'd say that I'm quite sort of introverted. I'm quite I don't know, I like my own space, I like my own time, I like my own company, but I couldn't get on with it. But I got other mates like that who were like, oh my God, like not having to go to the office has been a fucking godsend. Working from home's been amazing. Or yeah, creatives as well. So many like people that I know that do music or or writing, they were like, oh, it's been amazing, just being indoors all day, just sort of cracking on with things. But yeah, I mean, I'm luckily like I'd say halfway through, I don't know what happened, but I sort of managed to get myself into a space where I was quite sort of prolific for me because I'm quite slow at like writing tunes and that. But I kind of all of a sudden pulled out quite a lot of material, which was good. So it's half and half. The other half of the lockdown, I managed to get into some studios and do some of the best recording I've ever done. That's like and I did some of the best writing I've ever done at home as well. But the first part of it was a real struggle for me. I really, really, really didn't like it. And I
I
still
totally agree. I
yeah,
totally agree, man.
yeah,
It's
'cause
like it freaked me out. All I've ever wanted to do is like, you know, aside from the podcast, I run a nightclub and like, and I'm
oh,
generally
do you?
sort of
Yeah,
spinning quite a few plates,
yeah,
and all I ever wanted to do was try and put myself in a position where I could work off my laptop and I could live anywhere. That's
yeah,
all I wanted to do. Just think, right, okay, I just want to be somewhere where I can just like I can move to here if I want to, and all of my job is done on my laptop. That got thrust upon me,
yeah,
and I didn't fucking like it. I
yeah,
was like, I thought this is what I wanted, and I was like, nah, I
yeah.
like people.
No, mate, yeah. I think a lot of people. I think at the start of it, there was a novelty, weren't there? And
Of
people
course.
like with me, even with me, like with me as well. Like I just did the booze. I'm not gonna lie. Do you know
Oh mate,
what
I literally went airport mode for like about 6 weeks,
I
mate.
mean? Yeah, no, literally, everyone I knew was like, I was having Zooms about fucking 5 days a week, and everyone's just cracking on the Zooms. You know what I mean? I had some of the wildest nights of my life, sat in my fucking front room on Zoom calls with everyone else. You know what I mean? But it soon once the like, the novelty of that kind, because at first I thought, oh, okay, yeah, maybe this will be blinding. I'll just sort of sit indoors. I'll fuck the world off for a little while. I'll come off social media. I'll uh, I'll write some tunes. I'll write an album. I'll do this and that. And the reality was, after about 2-3 weeks of it, I was off my fucking head. Do you know what I mean? I was knitting. I was doing anything like to keep my brain occupied. I had these fucking visions of me like delivering like 3 albums worth of material.
Who's going to say boxes of cardigans? Just fucking knitting.
Literally, I started on the merch. That's what I should have done. But yeah, no, I really, I'm so glad to see the back of it. I was one of
Absolutely.
them kind of people that like I got emotional like the first time I got back in the pub. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was a big deal for me. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't. I struggled all the way through it. And just being able to go and see my family. I'm a big family person, and yeah, I really, really, really struggled with it. I'm so glad it's over.
I think that initial thing that you said there about like, you know, there's a novelty for like 3 weeks, because I think we're so used to thinking any problem in the world is going to kind of be done and dusted in like, you know, 5-6 weeks, and then it'd be
Yeah,
back to, and then I think,
yeah,
you know, a few months in, you start to think, oh, hold tight, this ain't going away. Like, and I think that's when it really starts to, it started to get to a lot of people. It certainly did me. I was just thinking, I can't see a light at the end of the tunnel here. Like,
yeah,
when's this going to be done? Like,
yeah.
when
It's
they,
relentless, weren't it?
they pulled all that shit out of Christmas, I was like,
Oh mate, yeah.
this ain't good.
That
Like,
Christmas, that will stick. That will stick in my head as like one of the most difficult periods I think ever. That
mm,
Christmas when, because as well, like I remember when we first went into lockdown, even though it was, what was it, like March or April, it was still very much all of a sudden it felt like we were in summer. Do you know what I mean? And it was like it there was something about it that helped a little bit. But when we went in that Christmas and it was getting dark by like fucking 4 o'clock in the afternoon, do you know what I mean?
Mate, bleak.
It was so bleak, wasn't it? It was an absolute fucking nightmare. That was one of the roughest periods for me.
Yeah.
That sort of Christmas time, that winter. Oh, mate.
Well, we'll pick back up on what's happened post lockdown now, because well, we always start the playlist with a song with the greatest ever intro. So can you let me know what you've gone for?
I struggled with this. I'm not gonna lie.
This is the one that everyone struggles with, mate. This one,
mate. I had a few. Well, I had a list of like a few honourable mentions.
Yep, you can throw them out there.
Oh, well, I was just toying with. Well, I think I went with. Did I go with Bittersweet Symphony?
Yeah,
by the Verve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I ended up going with that, but it was a toss up between that and I almost picked How Soon Is Now by the Smiths, which is like, it's probably, I don't know, it's just one of, it's one of the best songs ever made, I think. I was also close with like, I was thinking of Come Together at one point by the Beatles. I Want to Be Adored was another one that I almost went with. Give Me Shelter by the Stones. I thought, you know, like you whack that on when you're walking down the street and you just all of a sudden you're like a main character in a Scorsese movie. Do you know what I mean?
Same with Bittersweet Symphony, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They're like, I don't know, main character songs, aren't they? You put them on
all day long.
All of a sudden you're the lead in the movie. But I picked Bittersweet Symphony just because it's just a mood changer, that song, I think. I think everyone has them sort of tunes that they go to when they're having like a particularly shitty day. And that's one of my ones. It blows my mind every time I hear it. It really does. I always think like, I'd have loved to have been in the room when like they delivered that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Imagine hearing that because it's so sort of, you know, there's not I don't know anyone that don't know that tune now. Do you know what I mean? It's everywhere, isn't it? But like imagine being there in the room when they first played that to like, you know, whoever they were playing it to at the time. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, it was close. I'd say it's a tie between that and How Soon Is Now.
You chose two songs there that both How Soon Is Now and Bittersweet Symphony don't sound like any other song by the Smiths or by the Verve.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's true, isn't it?
And when you mentioned the Rosies, because I always say this for Fool's Gold as well. Fool's Gold don't sound like anything else the Rosies done. And them songs like How Soon Is Now, that could come out tomorrow, right? And you can't put a date on that. It's sonically, it's just from outer space. The same with Bittersweet Symphony. You know, there's lots of stuff on them, you know, them earlier Verve albums that sound of its time.
Yeah.
Bittersweet Symphony, How Soon Is Now, they don't. They exist somewhere else. And there's something very sort of chest out about Bittersweet Symphony. I think it's just got some bravado about it, and it's just got something empowering about it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh no, massively. And you know what's weird as well, though? It's like I feel like I've had sort of the same experience with How Soon Is Now, but like the recording of it. I can't explain what I mean. I guess it changes when you see it live, because I've seen How Soon Is Now played a couple times by Morrissey. I've seen it played by Johnny Marr, obviously not together. But live, it almost takes on this other kind of meaning for people. Like being in a crowd of thousands of people that are all screaming like, I'm human and I need to be loved just like everybody else does. It suddenly is this, because it's almost like an anthem for, I don't know, like the introverts when you listen to the recording. But live, it becomes this kind of anthemic, like sort of chest out, almost the same kind of vibe as like Bittersweet Symphony, but for the weirder people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And that's what, I mean, I'm 48. I grew up obsessed with Morrissey and like, you know, Johnny Marr, I think, is the greatest guitar genius has ever walked this planet.
Yeah,
and all of that, you know, being that that kid that didn't quite fit in with the cool kids. You know, you'd listen to them Morrissey lyrics and it'd be like, oh yeah, that's all right. There's another gang. I want to be in this gang. You know, and that's what makes the stuff he's talking about now just so weird. I just don't get it, and it just busts me up that like this guy that was the spokesperson for the Outcasts and the Weird and Wonderful, he's now saying some really odd things in the press, and I don't know if it's some elaborate, weird, dark Morrissey joke that no one's really getting, but it don't seem very funny.
No, I know, it's bizarre, isn't it? It's so far away from, because I mean, obviously, so I'm 29, so I weren't even alive when the Smiths were together. I actually found them on my own. Like my mum and dad, they're not really like when I got into the Smiths. Like my dad kind of rediscovered them through me. My dad was like, "Oh, I always thought they're a bunch of fucking weirdos." Do you know what I mean? Like, so he's kind of grown to have this new appreciation for them through my love for them. But when I first I think the first time I was ever kind of exposed to them, like I heard, it weren't even the Smiths, it was Morrissey's solo stuff. It was like, you know, that tune First of the Gang to Die?
Yeah.
I heard that somewhere. I can't remember, when I was about 13, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I can't remember where I found them, but I think it must have been online, like YouTube or something. And once I saw what they looked like matched with the sounds that they were creating and the lyrics that Morrissey was writing, it kind of, I remember feeling like my little world of music had kind of almost ended, because I remember thinking like, it's not going to get better than this for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, this is almost like someone's created music in a laboratory for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's sonically, like, you know, guitar wise, Johnny Marr is my favorite player, probably ever. Vocally, Morrissey's voice is like my favorite voice. Lyrically, his lyrics are my favorite lyrics. It's just like, I had a real kind of, I don't know if I'll ever have a moment like that again, discovering a band.
Yeah.
And then I remember like naively thinking, well, I don't know, you know, no one seems to know about the Smiths. When I was like,
they should be big, you know.
Yeah, these guys should be massive. What happened to these? But yeah, no, I know what you mean. So from having that kind of discovering when I was that age to now, yeah, I don't know what the fuck he's up to be honest.
No, I have to separate it. I have to separate the music from.
And I don't know if that makes me a fucking weirdo, but the Smiths come on my playlists or, you know, my Spotify every day, and I'm still just as in love with their music as I was.
Mate, absolutely, dude. I'm literally covered in Morrissey lyrics, man.
Mate, I ain't got no tattoos, but if I did, they would all be Smith lyrics everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, it's just something that I think, you know, and it comes up regular on this podcast, you know, that ability, you know, on people's, you know, different ways that some people can't separate the music from the artist or the art from the artist, and some can. And, you know, Michael Jackson gets brought up a hell of a lot on this podcast. You know, so many people grew up listening to Michael Jackson, but, you know, and it's like, wow, can you still listen to it? Would you still play it in a room if people come round? And it's like, it's interesting getting people's different sort of perspectives on it. And there's no right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's all you know, it's art, and it exists somewhere that I think, you know, is there to be enjoyed. And I think if you start really digging down into that, then so many artists, so many TV producers that have made, you know, this, where's it stop? Do you know what I mean? I think it's a real tricky one. But how soon is that? No one's ever going to tell me I can't listen to that, mate.
No, it's great, man, isn't it? What a fucking tune.
It really is. And not that people have ringtones anymore, but it's my ringtone.
Yeah. I think I'm sure it was Stuart Lee said, like, it's the Stairway to Heaven of the indie world.
Yeah.
Which I think was pretty good. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Describing it. Oh, I love it, man. And seeing it live is just amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
So,
Beautiful tune.
what are you making of the stuff that we've seen in the news the last couple of days that Rick Astley's now fronting Blossoms?
I see that.
Doing Smith, and they've announced 2 nights doing the music of the Smiths.
Right. Funny enough, my mate was at the gig where he first come on stage. You know, the other night, Rick Astley come on, and I think he played from the video that my mate put up. I could see they were singing "Panic," and I can't remember what the
This Charming Man.
Was it This Charming Man?
Yeah.
And I'll mess. So he put it up on Instagram, just a video of like in a crowd with everyone screaming along. And I was like, "Who the fuck's that?" I was like, "Who's singing with him?" And he was like, "Rick Astley." Oh, okay, fucking hell. But I would love to see them tunes played live.
100%,
mate. I mean, like I said, I've seen Johnny Marr, I've seen Morrissey, I've seen both of them a couple times, and as great as it is to see, their solo stuff and their other work, people are there to see. They want to see the Smiths tunes. Do you know what I mean?
All day long.
And I'd go see Rick Astley playing with the Blossoms, 100%. They sounded really good.
I thought it sounded great.
Yeah. No,
but
I'm up for that.
Did you see it when the Killers brought Johnny out at Glastonbury, and they've done This Charming Man?
Yeah.
See, I looked at that and I just thought, Brandon Flowers, he's nailing that vocal. I was thinking that'd be decent. I'd have a bit of that.
100%. I've seen they've done. I think when they played Manchester a couple years ago, they did like a "There Is a Light That Never Goes Out" cover as well.
Oh, really?
And he sings it. They do good covers to Killers. They also did like "The Whole of the Moon" by the Waterboys.
Oh, such a tune anyway. But I saw that. Yeah, it's so good.
But they do really, really good covers.
They brought Pet Shop Boys out of Glastonbury as well, didn't they? And Done Always on My Mind.
That like. I don't know what it is about the Killers. I've got a few mates that just won't have it with them. I don't know what it is. They're just like, nah, fuck the Killers, man. I think it's because they're quite like, it's almost like, it makes me think of like, it's like very sort of dramatic, isn't it? And it's very like flamboyant, and I don't know, some of my mates just, but I'm like, the tunes are fucking great, I think. I think they're really good songwriters. And
absolutely.
I thought their Glastonbury set was fucking wicked.
Well, this is what I think, right? And I think, like, I DJ like at my indie club like every week, and have done for nigh on 30 years. I never really need to hear Mr. Brightside ever again, right?
No, I can imagine that.
I saw them do. They done Glastonbury, but they done a Glastonbury warm up on one of the smaller stages as well.
Yeah.
And I saw them play Mr. Brightside. And they played it like a band, like playing one of their first gigs, and like where they just threw everything at it. And it just completely changed the way that I thought about that song. I was just like, they're playing this with like such energy and passion.
Yeah.
Where they've probably gone through the motions a few times. It's inevitable when you're that big and that song's that famous. But I was lucky I got to speak to Dave Kennan, the guitarist from the Killers, on this podcast.
Oh, did you?
And I just thought, is he going to pick Brightside for intro? He's got to, because it's such an iconic intro now. And you always think, How Soon Is Now, Stairway, and all of these kind of iconic songs from back in the day. But that's probably nigh on 20 years old now. And he's a classic now, isn't it? It's like...
Yeah, massively. I'll see him at like... What was the festival I went to? When we were only young, me and my pals. Must have been about 16. And they were fucking great. Like live, they've got them sort of anthems, ain't they? That even if you're not a fan, you're gonna fucking have a great time. Do you know what I mean? They make me think a bit of like, I know they're different, but like like Coldplay. Like I went to see them because they live in the Angel. They played at the Emirates a couple years back, and like I don't listen to Coldplay ever. You know what I mean? But they were fucking unbelievable, like live, and I knew every fucking tune because they're that successful.
They're Coldplay,
yeah, exactly. But I feel like that a bit with the Killers. It's like they're a reliable like headliner at a festival. You're gonna go and have a good time, aren't you?
100%.
You're all gonna scream along and fucking be covered in piss.
Absolutely.
20 minutes, you know what I mean? If the Killers are playing, That was one of the first festivals I ever went to.
I'll tell you what, like if you love or hate Coldplay, the documentary on Prime about the story of them, I think it's called Head Full of Dreams or something like that. If you like watching a music documentary, that is spectacular. I'm not a big Coldplay fan, but it's one of the best music docs I've ever seen. Like really, really interesting. Like somebody was filming like their gigs at like the Bull and Gate and the Dublin Castle, like where they're literally like carrying their stuff in and putting it on crates, and they've got it from the very first gig to like obviously these huge stadiums now. It's definitely worth a watch.
Oh, mate.
Track 2.
What is it?
It's the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Okay. I was trying to think with this one, and I think I was quite happy with my answer because it's the first song you can remember, right? That made you upset, and I went with "My Way" by Frank Sinatra. Simply because it's just like the theme tune for death in my family. Do you know what I mean? Like it's I'm yet to go to like a family funeral or a wake or a friend's funeral where that tune ain't played. And so now it's like tied to saying goodbye to loved ones for me. So it obviously makes me emotional now. But like I think it must be one of the first tunes that ever made me emotional because it's always been that way with my family. Like I come from quite a big family in North London, and just growing up, I mean, still now, just any excuse to have a party. Do you know what I mean? Like just forever having parties for every fucking occasion you can imagine. You know what I mean? Like New Year's Eve and birthdays, and we used to have St. George's Day parties. Half of my family are Irish, so we'd have St. Patrick's Day parties. You know what I mean? Just any excuse for a booze up. And them sort of like, you know, like hiring out like a school hall or like a church hall, or whether it was like house parties and that, and you bring your own drink and all them sort of things, you know what I mean? Sing Come On Eileen. And then always My Way would come on. And I just remember, I mean, like, this is like, I'd say I was maybe 6. I'm trying to think of the earliest time I can remember. But I always remember sort of vividly that song would come on and the atmosphere in the room would change. You know what I mean? Like my aunties would start crying and my nan would start getting emotional, and all the fellas would start making toasts and raising glasses and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And like we'd all gather around and sing it. And I remember being like, I don't know, I must have been 6, I'd say about that age, thinking, not being aware that it's because it's tied to death for my family, but just being aware that, oh, this is the tune that comes on and makes everyone sad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it must, unless I used to get, you know, teary-eyed listening to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in the cot or something, you know what I mean? I think that must be the earliest emotional impact the tune had on me. And it was simply because I was a kid watching my family kind of get emotional, not quite comprehending yet why they'd get emotional when that song come on, but seeing everyone start crying together. And it still happens now. Do you know what I mean? That it's like now fucking feels like 100 funerals have gone past since them days.
Yeah.
Where that song's again tied to each person that we said goodbye to. To the point of where, like, if it comes on and people ain't ready for it, do you know what I mean? Like, if it comes on the radio in the car, everyone's like, no, like, turn it off, get it off. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it has to be sort of announced at a party. My Way's coming on in 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Brace yourselves.
Fill up your drink. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. But yeah, that must be the first tune that I can think of.
Well, we're going to stay in the formative years, and for track 3, I'm going to ask you to tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
I can't remember the specific track, but it'll be from one of the first 2 Eminem records. I think it's either like Real Slim Shady or anything off of like the Marshall Mathers LP. That was like when I remember I've got like my best friend Sam. We've been friends since we were in nursery together. You're right.
Yeah, I ain't COVID, mate.
Oh, just making sure I ain't passed it through to you through the microphone or something. Do you know what I mean? No, I remember we me and my boys have been pals since we were in nursery. And one day, my mate Sam come in and he was like, "Oh, you got to listen to this guy Eminem." And this is like, I worked it out. So that album came out in like the year 2000 or something. So it's literally fucking 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was only 8 at the time. And I re-listened to it the other day, and I was thinking, "Fucking hell, what was
That's
I
heavy
doing
music for an 8-year-old."
listening to this at 8 years of age?" Yeah, and like he came in, I'm sure he had it on a Walkman and was playing it to us all. And it's the perfect, you know, when you're a kid, it's like it's the right amount of like, you know, you've got the real Slim Shady, which is just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? And it's like comical, and then there's also really quite sinister, creepy stuff. Do you know what I mean? And then there's like Stan. Like I was listening to Stan the other day thinking, fuck me, this must have twisted my head when I was a kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's obviously, it's just got every other word's a swear word, which is amazing when you're a kid, isn't it? It's what you fucking love. And I remember going home to my dad and being like, "Oh, can you buy me this CD?" And I don't think he at the time even realized what it was. He probably wouldn't have got it for me because the content, you know what I mean? But I think he was just buzzing that I wanted to listen to music.
Yeah.
And he went and bought it for me. And that was it then. Me and my mates were obsessed with it. Like, we'd have our little, we'd write our little raps in the playground. Do you know what I mean? Like 8, 9 years old. And we're all sort of sat there listening to Eminem all day for our lunch breaks. And that was only when we were really young. And then we even, we got this story. I don't know if it's appropriate for a podcast, but like, because it's quite dark, but it's not that dark. But like, we were so obsessed with Eminem. I remember we all got like buzz cuts. Do you know what I mean? Like as short as your hair could go, like with the clippers, like number 1, number 2, and that. And then I remember one day my mate Sam again came in and he bought, you know, like Eminem had that famous bandana. It was like the white one with like the black pattern on it. And that was it then, you know what I mean? Like I run home to my dad that day and I was like, "Dad, like I need a bandana, like we're gonna have to fly up the market and get one." Do you know what I mean? And then there was just a group of us that would sit listening to Eminem in like tracksuits with shaved heads and bandanas all day at school. And then I remember my dad and my mate Sam's nan, Jeannie, they used to volunteer on the school trips, you know, like when the parents would come and help out.
Yeah.
And that year they took us to Chesterton World of Adventure. And me and my mates are there dressed as fucking Eminem in our bandanas. And the staff came up to my dad and they thought that we were with like a Make-A-Wish Foundation or something. They thought we were like ill because and my dad had to be like, no, they just like Eminem. You know what I mean? They're just into Eminem. Because we were there with our fucking shaved heads and our bandanas walking about, literally about 7 of us at a theme park. My dad was like, "Fuck me." I thought, how am I gonna come out of this one? You know what I mean?
It's so weird though that like Eminem is like anyone that's been on this podcast that's kind of, you know, under sort of 30, Eminem's kind of almost their punk.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
That was the thing that kind of shook it up. That was the thing that was controversial. That was the thing that was, you know, a new twist on, and it was a new twist on hip hop. You know, what he was doing was, you know, so fucking forward thinking and different. And, you know, and obviously you've got Dre involved. It's like, you know, there's a reason.
Well, like when I was listening to it the other day, it's still fucking great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's mental, but it's brilliant. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, that it's almost one of them memories, you know, and it's like I can't really remember my life before that music was in it, because I was quite shocked. It was only when like preparing for this and the questions were sent through that I went back to work out how old I actually was when I first listened to it. And I was so fucking young. Like, I've got an 8-year-old niece now. Do you know what I mean? There is not a chance that she would be allowed to listen to that. Do you know what I mean? Not a fucking chance. And the funny thing is, like, it's even darker than you remember. Because when I go back and listen to it now,
got older ears. Do you know what I mean?
These lyrics and these concepts that were flying over my head when I was young. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a clue what most of it was he was even talking about. I just knew that he was saying fuck every other minute, which I just love that. Do you know what I mean? But no, definitely. It's weird to say that I'd never heard anything like it because my musical education at that point was still in its infancy. But I definitely not heard anything like it since. Do you know what I mean? Like from 8 years old onwards, it was just always kind of a pillar of my musical library. Do you know what I mean? That sort of stuff.
What sort of music was on at home growing up? Like, did your folks have music on?
Yeah, my dad like introduced me to sort of he was into like sort of classic rock. My dad, do you know what I mean? It's like the sort of just the normal. Like he showed me like Led Zeppelin. He got me into Queen. He got me into the Beatles. Obviously, just all the kind of the usual suspects. You know what I mean? And then my mum was like really into like Motown and stuff, and she got me into like people like David Bowie as well, and then to be honest, that was I'd always kind of grown up with these. I'd say they're like godlike musicians. Do you know what I mean? Listening to them, and I remember doing music myself it wasn't even like a possibility. And to go back to the Smiths, it weren't until I found the Smiths that I was like, because I can't sing like Robert Plant, I can't play guitar like Jimi Hendrix. Do you know what I mean? I can't write tunes like Stevie Wonder. And then when I heard the Smiths, I was like, oh, I can do this though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking ignorantly. I was like, oh, they're talking about normal things. And people and like, but yeah, no, I had really, really good music, like Fleetwood Mac and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? My mum and dad I never really had that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I was saying, I discovered my own sort of stuff, like with Eminem and the Smiths and loads of different people. Do you know what I mean? Growing up, but I never had that rebellion against my mum and dad's music taste. I was always and still am really kind of into what we listened to growing up in my gaff. Do you know what I mean? They never really, none of it was really ever that bad.
I'm going to ask you for track 4 to tell me the first record, or I imagine CD you bought from a record shop.
Okay, so I reckon this might have been maybe like a year before the Eminem explosion, but I think the first CD I can remember buying was Queen, the Greatest Hits, and I remember my old man took me to get it. It must be like, I don't know, HMV or something like that. And because I'd heard, it's that sort of, I feel like it's almost like a cliche, but like I'd heard Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time in the car on the radio, and I must have been maybe 7, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of blew my mind. And my auntie Lynn, she I think she had it on CD because she used to drive me about and she'd play it to me over and over and over again, and I was so obsessed with it that like my dad had to go and buy me my own copy of the disc, and it had all of the like Queen's. I think it's the first Greatest Hits. It has like real like I just fell in love with all of their back catalogue. Like it has all like Don't Stop Me Now and Fat Bottom Girls and We Are the Champions. It's like, I think Under Pressure's on it.
It is, yeah.
Like really kind of, I've always thought like if I'm ever lucky enough to have kids one day, like I think Queen would be one of the first sort of bands that I'd play them. I think they're so kind of over the top and dramatic. They're really kind of have an impression on you when you're a kid. They're so fun to listen to. Do you know what I mean? And I sort of, I'm sure that's the first CD I ever bought.
You mentioned Bohemian Rhapsody, and you mentioned Led Zeppelin, Fleetwood Mac, and How Soon Is Now, and I Want to Be Adored, and all of these singles are all 5, 6, 7 minutes long, and things like Stairway and things like Bohemian Rhapsody, crazy structure all over the place. You know, it's just I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody is an album in a single.
Yeah, massively. You could be a
But
fan of 8 different parts of that song. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Not like the
yeah.
other parts.
I'm gonna sort of address this sort of to you as a young artist now.
Yeah.
You know, we're living in a world where attention spans seem to be getting shorter. People are listening to music via TikTok and fast moving thumbs. And when you approach songwriting, do you take into consideration the way that people are getting their music now and how they're discovering music? Or are you, I mean, you could be either or a bit of both, but, or are you an artist in regards to, well, if I write a song, I'll write a song and it is what it is. And if that happens to be 7 minutes long and, you know, has a middle 8 where the choir starts singing Fandango, like, you know, I mean, what's your kind of sort of stance on it? Do you know where I'm going with the question?
Yeah. No, I get it completely. And it's definitely been an eye-opener since. So I've been writing songs on my own in my bedroom for over 10 years now, and I've never sort of had to think that way at all. Do you know what I mean? And then I signed my record deal, like, I can't even know how long you know what, like, because of the COVID thing, my concept of time is just absolutely fucked. I can't even remember if it was a year ago or like nearly 2, I think. And since, and now I have other people involved that are like, well, can you not say that? Because that's, you know, that's never going to get on the radio if you say that. Or, you know, if you talk about violence, if you swear, if you talk about anything that's deemed kind of, you know, not sort of, not appropriate for the radio. My job, I think, as an artist, and this might just sound like I'm trying to be cool, but I just try my best to ignore it. I try my best to ignore it, because I think, and it's hard, it's virtually impossible sometimes, but there's this amazing interview with Bowie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I can't remember what it's for, but I have to go back and watch it like maybe once a week, because especially when I'm feeling a bit like I feel like I'm being pulled from pillar to post with what I'm trying to do artistically. And he talks about when like creative people create art, which is, I don't like to say that's what I do because I feel like an absolute wanker, but like it's like he's like, if you create, it's like if you're creating art for, I think the way he words it is like to the gallery. Do you know what I mean? If you're creating art for anyone other than yourself, that's when like an artist will create their worst work. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it really, and he also talks about, like, I think the analogy he uses is like a swimming pool. He's like, if you push yourself just enough into the deep end that your toes are not quite touching the surface, like out of your comfort area, that's when you'll create your most sort of exciting work. And like, I try to, if I'm ever doubting myself or ever thinking, you know, this song's 5 minutes long, should I cut out half a verse, or should I compromise with the kind of language that I'm using? The stories that I tell are all true, and sometimes are quite maybe uncomfortable to listen to. And if I'm ever thinking, maybe you know, should I be talking about this sort of thing, I'll go back and I'll watch that interview every time, because, you know, I definitely worship David Bowie, and I think that's so accurate of the way the music world is at the minute. It's like there's all I mean, there's obviously the ones that break through the mold, and I think once you get to a level of success, you're kind of given free rein to do what you want sometimes. You know what I mean? Like when I'm listening to people that are so successful, like Billie Eilish, who's like absolutely fucking huge. Like whatever she does is gonna be number one and is gonna be on the radio simply because her name is attached to it. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. Do you know what I mean? But when you're a young artist coming up, the level, the list of things that you've got to tick off to even get played on the radio is fucking like impossible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's that thing of like, you could do this, you could do all of that. Do you know what I mean? You could compromise every single second of your work. And at the end of it, you'll be left with this piece of shit song that you don't like. And it still might not get played anywhere. So you might as well write and create the art that you want to create. And, you know, people, I'm not fucking number one. I'm not on the radio, but I've got an audience that come and sell out my shows and scream these lyrics back to me that, you know, labels try and tell you are too controversial to talk about, or they're too, you know what I mean? So it's I get it might I'm lucky in the fact that I'm not writing pop music. I'm not writing music that is designed to be on like the Radio 1 playlists. Don't get me wrong, if my tunes went on there, it'd be fucking really handy. Do you know what I mean? But I can't do it. I don't feel like I'm even capable of doing it. It's just not and I'm not like rebelling against doing it. I'm just sometimes don't feel even capable as a writer of creating that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. But I get how it is really hard to kind of shut them outside voices out. You know what I mean? And yeah, the songs that we're talking about, fuck me. If you said today, oh, Bohemian Rhapsody, like this is the single, I think even back then in the 70s, it was really out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? As a single. But now, I wouldn't touch it with a shitty stick now. Do you know what I mean? No chance. No chance at all. But that Bowie interview, I can't remember what it is, but it's amazing. I'll definitely check that. It's amazing to listen to. There's that other one as well when he's talking to, is it Bill Paxman? No, what's his name? That politician guy, I don't know what his name is. And he's talking about the internet in the 90s. It's crazy, that is. Fucking, it's like almost like he's having premonitions or something. It's scary how accurate he is. Yeah. I could watch Bowie talk for hours every day. Do you know what I mean? I do most days, to be fair. Fact 5. The song that soundtracked your years clubbing. Oh, yeah. This was quite a difficult one for me because, I mean, I did hit the clubs for a couple of years, but I was never... My mates are big clubbers, you know what I mean? Massive clubbers, massively into the music, massively into the scene, do you know what I mean? And I was for a little while, I was massively into the drugs, to be honest. but the music was never really my... Yeah. It was always a very separate lifestyle for me. Yeah. I would be at home every day, all day, listening to what I'd call my tunes. Weekend, meet my mates, we'd go out, whether it be raves or clubs or whatever. And I'd have fun, don't get me wrong, but I'd never go home and listen to like all my mates would be like sending each other ass tunes and club mixes and stuff. And it was just never my cup of tea. So I was trying to think of like a tune that took me back to those days. And like, did I pick Blinded by the Lights by the Streets? Yes. That's what I ended up going for. Yeah. And it's not because it was ever played in the clubs or anything like that, but it was always for me and my mates like a pre-drink anthem. Do you know what I mean? We used to put it on before we were going out, and it used to, again, it was like almost like a musical sort of premonition of what was going to happen that night.
Tune.
You know what I mean?
Such a tune that is.
Oh, it's amazing. And I started, you know, I'm 29, so over 10 years ago, I feel like I was one of the last generations that really got to experience like going out underage. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I used to have fake IDs and like I used to borrow my cousin's passports kids probably still do it now, but I don't think you get away with like the fake IDs that I've still got them upstairs. How the fuck I got let in? Yeah, I look about 7 as well. I'm fresh out of the womb in the pictures. But there was always like, because there was never a chance we were actually going to get in anywhere, there was always this like underlying sense of anxiety on those sort of, in them years when we were going out clubbing, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not just lyrically in that tune, like he manages, they captured like an atmosphere in it that 100%. Like it's almost uncomfortable to listen to sometimes in a weird way. It's like it puts me on edge, and it takes me back to those years where I'd be sort of getting right dressed up, trying to look as old as I possibly can. Do you know what I mean? Spraying cheap shitty aftershave on me, and I was all having a couple drinks and that, trying to get up the courage to walk up to a bouncer to be let in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's that song, when I hear it now, it kind of takes me back to them, the sort of those hours before going out, and also the feeling of being in the queue, waiting to get into somewhere, hoping that you ain't going to be absolutely fucking humiliated in front of like a queue full of strangers. Do you know what I mean? But that song kind of, I remember, like, we used to, when we were really young, you know, like drinking in the park and that, on the park benches and around the flats, that tune was played then. Do you know what I mean? And then in like the ass party years, when you're like 15, 16, and every weekend someone's got a gaff plot on the go, it was played then. Do you know what I mean? And then, yeah, like in the sort of the raving and the clubbing years, it was always played at the pre-drink. So it kind of, it takes me back to all of them sort of them years when I was just discovering, kind of going out with my mates. You know what I mean? But there's definitely an energy in that song that's like, it's like a masterpiece, I think. Actually,
yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. For track 6, I'm going to take you home, and I'm going to ask you for a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Okay, cool. I'm not even gonna lie, I got confused with what a county was. I thought it was like, I was like, because at first I thought it was just like, it'll be someone from the Angel where I live. Do you know what I mean? And the only band from the Angel that I could find was Spandau Ballet, and they got some bangers. But I don't know if I cheated, but I just made it North London.
Yep, that's fine.
I could have Amy Winehouse, because I really love Amy. And I picked, I think I picked Love Is a Losing Game.
You did.
I did, yeah. It's another, I'm a bit of a mopey. I quite like being emotional. Do you know what I mean? And like, music really is like probably one of the only ways, I think maybe film as well, where that can affect me emotionally. Do you know what I mean? The only form of art, I guess. I go to galleries and stare at paintings and fuck all happens. You know what I mean? I just can't get into it. But like, yeah, that song is just, like I said with Bittersweet Symphony, you got them tunes that you go to when you want your mood lifted. You know what I mean? And then you got them tunes you go to when you're like, oh, I just think I want to have a little bit of an emotional moment and just be a bit miserable for a while. And Love Is a Losing Game is one of them for me. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, them two albums are pretty flawless in my mind. Do you know what I mean? I always think, like, if you didn't know who she was, and you came across them tunes, you'd think you'd kind of discovered some sort of hidden gem. Do you know what I mean? Like
100%.
from the 50s or something. It's like, I feel like I could play my nan them tunes and she would think they were from her era or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think they're class, man.
I remember, like, because I weren't massive on the first, Frank, wasn't it, the first album? And like, and
it's
I
not as like hooky and that, is it? It's more like a proper jazz album, I guess.
And it was like, then I heard her I was driving home one night and I heard her on a radio station, and she was just picking records, and she wasn't super famous then, you know, like the mega stardom hadn't happened. You know, she'd had, I guess, relative success with that debut album. But she was picking like songs by the Angels and the Ronettes and the Shangri-Las, and I was just thinking, oh, right, she's right into like the girl group stuff. And and then I remember hearing Rehab for the first time, and I was like, holy shit, this is good. And I was like, who is this? And I was like, oh, that's that girl that was on the thing that done that other thing that I wasn't massively fussed over. Mark Ronson's got his mitts on this as well. And it was like, fucking hell. It just, when that second record come out, it's a masterpiece. There's nothing missing from that record at all.
No, it really is. It's unbelievable. I got to see her live as well. I can't remember what festival it was, and it was you know, it was sadly, luckily, obviously for me as a listener, but it was just, it felt like before she'd just completely kind of gone off the rails, you know what I mean, for want of a better word. And she was unbelievable. Her voice was fucking just class, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it felt like a voice that like you'd known forever. Do you know what I mean? Like it felt like, I don't know. It just, and I always think if you look at that period of music, there comes so many artists that are trying to sound like she is. Do you know what I mean? She's one of them artists that kind of set off a trend of everyone being like, oh, we need it to sound like Amy Winehouse. Do you know what I mean? And no one comes close to it. Do you know what I mean? Not at all. Like vocally or production wise, because obviously Mark Ronson's a genius. But
Visually as well, just her style, everything about it was just like you'd stop and stare at her if she was walking down the street anyway, like because she looked so definitive and interesting, and then
also like from another era, isn't it?
Absolutely,
like she was like time traveled to the present day.
And before she even sings a note, when she starts talking, you're like, oh, she talks like me and my mates.
Yeah,
like she talks like where we're from. This is incredible. Then she sings, and it's like, holy shit! Like that's just different level.
It's unbelievable. I remember, I think it's Russell Brand telling a story about how he sort of knew her just from like being around Camden, but not. And her always saying to him, like, I'm a singer, like you're saying, like talking like normal people, and him being like, yeah, like, are you really? Do you know what I mean? And then one day him hearing her sing on the TV and being like, oh my God, like I thought she was just like chatting shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'd love to have met her, man. I've got like a few pals that like knocked about with a few people that she knows and like had sort of nights out with her and always said that she was just like an absolute blinder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so fucking sad, really. Because I think she was probably just scratching the surface of what she was going to do music.
Mate,
do you know what I mean? She was
100%.
She was so young, do you know what I mean? But like that tune, there's actually a live performance of it. Again, this is going to be as useless as the Bowie thing because I can't remember what it is. But like, there's a version of her singing it just in one take, that Love Is a Losing Game. And it's just like unbelievable. Like it's just fucking actually just smashes it.
Yeah.
And then I think afterwards she's like, that was a bit shit, wasn't it? Or something. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Like just
Is that on the documentary?
It might, yeah.
She's in the studio, and I
yeah.
think she's putting that down. I'm sure Ronson's like, fucking hell. And she's like,
Yeah, like she's completely unaware.
Yeah.
That everyone outside of that booth has just had like a moment. You know what I mean? She's got, it completely goes over her head. Like she's just nearly brought the whole room to tears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I fucking love that.
Well, you get to play Tastemaker for the last track. And I'm going to ask you to tell us a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Is it? Can I change my mind? I've changed my pick. Because as well, we're talking about Mark Ronson. He's produced my last two tracks. So there's this girl that I really like at the minute, and she's only just put her album out. Her name's Yebba. Have you heard of her?
No.
So it's like, her name's Yebba. So it's like Abby spelt backwards. But she's this like American vocalist. And me and my best mate, who I write some music with, are both sort of like obsessed with, like we'll send each other like, oh, listen to this person sing this, listen to this person sing that. Do you know what I mean? Or we'll send each other like bootlegs from like fucking Aretha Franklin and like Marvin Gaye from the 70s and stuff like that. And like, oh, listen to this note. You know what I mean? We're kind of vocal geeks or whatever. And my mate sent me this girl. She did, I think it's like a Sofa Sounds, and she sings this song. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the most unbelievable vocal performance. Like it kind of took the internet over. It was like about 5 years ago, maybe. And she's like a gospel singer. She comes from like, I can't remember, like I'm sure it's like deep south in America or whatever. Her dad's like a pasta, like a pasta. I can't say that in my accent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You sound like a Tory ordering a pasta, don't you? Pasta. She's like learnt to sing in church, but she's got it's a really sort of tragic story. Like her mum, like sadly killed herself, and she found her basically. And this album that she's just put out, the whole album is just about her mum, and it's fucking so beautiful. Like some of the tunes in it, but there's this one song in particular called October Sky, and it's like I was like, oh, this is insane, because it's like it reminds me of something like lyrically and melodically, it's almost like something that Paul Simon would have written. Do you know what I mean? It's like quite different from what I expected her to sort of bring out, and then matched with these vocals that she's just like an absolute beast at doing. It was like one of them tunes that every now and again, like I hear a song and I'm like, I fucking wish I wrote that. You know what I mean? I'd love to write something like that. And her name's Yeba. I think the album's called Yawn, but she's massive. But like, I feel like it's mostly in America, or that she's got this kind of niche, very kind of loyal audience.
Yeah.
No one that I meet over here, unless you kind of move in them sort of circles, really knows who she is. So that's a recommendation that I'd put out there for people to listen to.
Well, we put together a Spotify playlist to accompany the podcast, so that'll feature on there alongside all the other tracks that we've spoken about today. So the rest of 2021 is going to be a much more connected and happy and positive and creative space than the last, the beginning of the year and last year. So with that in mind, mate, what are you looking forward to from the rest of this year personally, and what's happening professionally?
Personally, we've started having family parties again, like I spoke about, and all crying to my way. So that the novelty of being able to be in a room with everyone again, having a blinder, even the novelty of just going down the pub with my mates still hasn't really worn off on me, I think, because I struggled so much through the lockdowns. So being surrounded by my friends and family and just having good times as frequently as possible is kind of all that I'm aiming to do for the rest of my life now. And professionally, same sort of thing. Like I'd literally last month finally got to play my first 2 shows in it's been like 2 years, I think.
How was that?
Oh, unbelievable, man. I was absolutely shitting myself. Do you know what I mean? Like I just thought it felt like everything I'd ever learned about being a live performer had just been unlearned and forgotten about. Do you know what I mean? I felt like a fucking rusty antique or something that had been sat on a shelf. But it was 2 nights I played at like the St. Pancras Church in King's Cross. And it was just like the crowd would that's the thing. As excited as I am as an artist, and the other artists I know are, to get back to performing at gigs, the crowds are just ready for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were fucking, they were having a party before I even walked out on stage. You know what I mean? So that's my plan professionally, with just starting to sort of put in some dates, doing a UK tour, just of like little pub venues and stuff like that, just going right back to sort of basics, which is exciting for me. To get out there and play for people, but also meet people. Do you know what I mean? Afterwards, have drinks with people, that sort of shit. And I'm releasing another EP in the next couple of weeks. I'm not 100% sure. We're slightly delayed because of me having COVID. We've had to sort of put a few things back, but now we're back on track to getting it out before the end of the year. So it's just kind of excited to be doing stuff. Do you know what I mean? I will do anything now. Do you know what I mean? Like people ring me up, they're like, "Oh, do you want to come and?" I'll go for a walk with anyone. Do you know what I mean? Just getting out of the house is still, the novelty of that still hasn't worn off for me. You know what I mean? Especially now after having COVID, it felt like I was back in lockdown, so I had to fucking sit in bed for 10 days. But being out and about, seeing people, playing shows, it is.
So, if people do want to go for a walk with you or go and watch one of these shows, where's the best place to keep up to speed? God, I'm dying.
You're right. Oh, no, I'm worried now. I'm worried you've got COVID.
God, dear, oh dear.
Over the just Louis Dunford on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just the usual shit. You know what I mean? I'm all over social media. They're the best places really to find out how to come see me live and how to listen to the tunes.
We'll take you in everything when this comes out. Best of luck with the gigs. Best of luck with the EP. It's been an absolute joy talking records with you, mate.
Your first ever podcast, so thanks for being so nice.
Oh, it's been a blast, man.
I really enjoyed it.
Cheers, brother.
Wicked to meet you. Sweet, mate.
Right. Nice press stop on here, and I'll